What's going on YouTube? It is Texans Takeover back in another video. In today's video, I'm talking about how the Texans beat the Steelers. It's playoff week. The Texans play on Monday night, so they play about a week from today. Today is Tuesday. They travel over to Pittsburgh to play the Steelers at 7:15 p.m. Central Standard Time on Monday night. Last playoff game of the wild card round. Actually, you're used to the Texans getting gifted that Saturday at 3:30 game, but this year they're going to Pittsburgh to play on Monday night instead of Saturday late afternoon, I guess. But you got CJ Stroud taking on Aaron Rodgers in this one. You got a 42, 43-year-old playing a 23-year-old. The 12 and 5 Houston Texans against the 10 and 7 Pittsburgh Steelers. So let's just dive into it. We're going to start off evaluating the Texans schedule, where you can see it's a tale of two seasons pretty clearly. You don't lose a game on that entire right side of the screen, while on the left side of the screen you lose five. So you start off with a loss to the Rams in a complete defensive battle. You really shut down that Rams offense, and you can see signs of life in that Texans defense. Probably don't expect it to play the way it did throughout the entire year, but um, yeah, you could really see how good that Texans defense could have been, especially against a high-powered offense in the Rams. Rams pass rush was just able to get to C.J. Stroud, make him uncomfortable throughout the game. A huge Darian Gumbawale fumble late in the game really decided how that result went, because Texans definitely could have won that. They were driving down the field at the 20-yard line before Ogunbowale fumbled. Then you go to the Buccaneers. You have Baker Mayfield on a fourth and like 15, fourth and 17. I'm at this game. It's Monday Night Football prime time. You're up 19-13. If you can just bring Baker Mayfield down, you win the game. But Henry To'oTo'o misses a tackle. Baker Mayfield escapes, scrambles, gets the first down, and then they ultimately score a touchdown to win the game. So you drop to 0-2. You're kind of just thinking, hey, we really need to get back in rhythm. We get the Jaguars next week, who no one anticipated being as good them to be as good as they were, but you see signs of that there as they were able to beat us by a touchdown. Nico Collins' fumble as we were close to the end zone really, really hurt us. So two fumbles in the first three games really changed the results of those games, and we dropped to 0-3. And you're thinking, hey, there's probably no way we make the playoffs, but then we find some life against the Titans, slow game, but then Woody Marks and Jaden Higgins score in the fourth quarter to give the Texans their first win of the year. Then you go to Baltimore to play the absolutely beat up Ravens. I mean, they had no one on the field in that game, but you handle business. CJ Stroud throws four touchdowns in that game. You're feeling good going into the bye week, thinking, hey, we just won two games, put up 70 points combined in two games and only allowed 10. But then you go to Seattle, you see the key, um, you know, dysfunctional offense that you had with no run game, Nick Haley calling bad plays on the goal line, all that, and the Seahawks pretty much dominated us the whole game, and we lose by 8 as Jackson Smith and Jigba went off in that game as well. Then you play the 49ers, who were red hot with Mac Jones coming in. Wasn't Brock Purdy at this point, but CJ Stroud has his best game. He throws for over 100 yards, two touchdowns, and an interception, and you pretty much dominate the 49ers from start to finish. This was where you felt good about the Texans. You felt, hey, maybe they found a groove right there. But then CJ Stroud goes down against the Broncos. Davis Mills comes in. No starter reps throughout the week. Just doesn't look great. And the Broncos are able to beat us by a game winning field goal. But not a bad game nonetheless. But you're sitting there at 3-5 thinking, yeah, this season's probably over. We'll just wait till the next one. But then you win nine straight games. Davis Mills beats the Jaguars, Titans, Bills in defensive showdown against the Bills. CJ Stroud comes back, beats the Colts, Chiefs, Cardinals, Raiders, Chargers, and Colts again to end out the year. As Davis Mills stepped in halfway through that Colts game as we rested our starters to give us our 12th win on the year and give us the 5 seed. The Chargers game, Texans came out to an early lead, 14-0. Stroud throwing two deep touchdowns and then getting two field goals to really see that game through. Raiders game was close. I think we just played down to their level a little bit and rested some guys like Aziz and Woody Marks, and that was key in the Raiders being in that game. But at the same time, we were able to, just see that game through and win. Colts game went into halftime 23-17 up, and pretty much just saw that game out through in the second half. Cardinals game got out to a 17-0 lead after like 5 minutes of the game, and then again you just saw that game through. Chiefs game went up 10-0, then it became 10-10, and then you find the end zone with Darian Gumbawale actually coming in for an injured Woody Marks, and then you get a field goal at the end as the defense intercepted Patrick Mahomes three times in that game and got a key stop on fourth down, so the Texans were able to get that touchdown on the offensive side of the ball as they stopped them from 4th and 1 at the 31, I believe. Um, Colts game, I was actually away in a different country when this was happening, so I was watching this at I believe it was 6 p.m. or something like that. But um, yeah, CJ Stroud started off a little bit slow, had a little bit of rust, but then really saw the game through. Nico Collins with a rushing touchdown. I believe Woody Marks ran one in too. I don't know. There's another touchdown in there somewhere, and then two field goals to see that game through. You don't let the Colts score in the fourth quarter, I believe. After or no, they score a field goal in the fourth quarter, but you don't let them score a touchdown after going up 20-13. And then the Bills game, the Texans had about 9 sacks, sacked Josh Allen for the most times in his career, and also turned the ball over twice against the Bills. So Davis Mills was able to just really game manage that game and see that game through. Same thing with the Titans game. Um, the Titans tied it up 13-13, and then Davis Mills was able to get the Texans down into field goal range to kick a game-winning field goal, and I believe get us back to 500 at that point. Jaguars game was a turning point in the season, though. They went up 29-10, I believe, and then Davis Mills' fourth quarter heroics somehow really just uh, was the turning point in the season as he scored a rushing touchdown to end that game pretty much. As Sheldon Rankins also scored a defensive touchdown with 0 seconds left, which is why the score is the way it was. But it was 30-29, and the Texans win. Their fourth game of the year, that one, and that started the 9 game winning streak that they went on to end the year. A key game, and the key reason that we were in the playoffs, because I think if we lose that game, we're not anywhere near. But moving on to the Steelers schedule, I'm not going to go too in depth about this because, quite frankly, I don't know everything that happened in all these games. You start off against the Jets, and that was a very back and forth game. Aaron Rodgers playing his old team looked great in that game. Justin Fields looked great in that game too, though. And it was just pretty back and forth. Steelers were able to find a way to win it. That's how the Jets' early season was. They were just finding ways to be in games, but ultimately not win them. And then against the Seahawks kind of just dominated you. Aaron Rodgers turned the ball over twice in that game, I believe. And they win by 2 scores. Then he beat the Patriots, who are a very good team. Didn't know that early on in the year because they lost to the Raiders. So how legitimate is this win compared to if you beat them now? Don't know, but at the same time, you can only beat who's in front of you, and you do beat the Steelers there. Then you go to London to play the Vikings, and JJ McCarthy gives you, or is it Carson Wentz at this point? I believe it's Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz gives you a good battle, and I believe the Vikings or one of the teams had a game-winning drive. It's probably the Steelers, considering that they won, and you do win by 3. Then you go to the Browns, beat them by 2 touchdowns, a really depleted roster with, not much to do. Just a good defense, and you can see that later on in the year when y'all lost to them. And then you play the Bengals on Thursday Night Football. You start to see holes in the Steelers' defense, with Joe Flacco being able to dice them up. And that's prevalent as the Packers do the exact same thing, scoring 5 touchdowns against y'all. Um, and they look great in that game. Aaron Rodgers gets some consolation yards and touchdowns, but I think the Packers pulled away pretty early in that one, if I remember. Then you play the Colts, and it's a big win because the Colts were rolling at that point in the season. You hand them their second loss, um, and you show why you're a good football team. You pretty much dominated them the whole way through as you went up with the lead at halftime. This is the Texans' bye week, I believe, or a week that we played on Thursday Night Football, something like that. But we're scoreboard watching. I was watching this game. Steelers looked really good in it. But then you move over to the Chargers. Chargers just absolutely dominated y'all. Um, Offense couldn't get anything going against a good defense. You have a rematch against the Bengals, and this time I believe it's Joe Flacco again. I don't recall. I don't know if he was traded at this point, but you absolutely dominate them. You show them why you're the better team, and why Thursday Night Football is kind of a fluke sometimes. Then you move on to the Bears. Aaron Rodgers is hurt in this game. It's Mason Rudolph, and the Bears are just able to see this game through. Steelers definitely had a chance to win it, but Mason Rudolph didn't come through in the clutch, and the Bears were just able to win this one against the Bills. I believe it went into halftime like 7-7 or something like that. But then the Bulls, or not the Bulls, the Bills pulled away in that second half to win by 19. Again, not a very good defense, but your team is still struggling to score against them, so shows a little bit of concern there. And then against the Ravens, there's controversial Isaiah Likely catch non-catch. I don't think it was a catch, in my opinion, but um, really helps you win that game. You see life in your offense again, really starting to roll at this point when you beat the Dolphins, because I believe your team scored 7 touchdowns in 2 games, which is always a recipe for success there. And then you get another three touchdowns in the game against the Lions, where you win by 5, but then you see the thing about DK Metcalf, he's out for the next 2 games, and it really hurts your offense because you can see you don't score a touchdown against the Cleveland Browns there, and they beat you by 7, and then against the Ravens, you win with the Tyler Loop miss kicked to ultimately see you into the playoffs as the AFC North Division winners, winning 10 games throughout the year. Um, but moving on, how do you beat the Steelers team? Um, you just honestly let your defense fly. I have things highlighted here to show you, um, teams that I think have decent defenses or good defenses and how Aaron Rodgers played against them. Cleveland Browns, he had 168 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Um, the Steelers didn't score a touchdown in that game, excuse me. Even against the Bills, a team that I think has a really, really poor defense, Aaron Rodgers was only able to eke out 117 yards and doesn't find the end zone. Um, Moving on to the Chargers, he throws 2 interceptions. Seahawks, he throws 2 interceptions as well. Teams with very good defenses. I think the Seahawks are on par with the Texans defense, maybe slightly worse, but I mean, you're still a top 2 defense in the league over there in Seattle, and I think that's really going to prove prevalent in the playoffs. Seahawks have a great defense. Aaron Rodgers throws 2 picks. He finds the end zone once, but um, you know 2 interceptions is never a recipe for success, especially when you're trying to go out and win a game. And then against Cleveland, 235 and 2 touchdowns. You really just dominate them at that point in the year. Don't know if they were as good as they were later in the year, because Dylan Gabriel would give teams the ball back at the 50-yard line and stuff like that. Um, and then you got the um, Green Bay Pack, or no, sorry, that is Joe Flacco there with the Cleveland Browns. He got traded midweek, and or maybe he got traded that week, and that's still in Gabriel's first start. I don't know, but you play the Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers looks good in the box score, but you watch them live. Definitely a little bit of consolation touchdowns. Green Bay just playing prevent, letting them chew down the clock and score touchdowns just to see that game through. Make sure that they can get the ball back and really see that game through. And one thing I want to highlight is Aaron Rodgers' yards per attempt here. You don't see anything over 10. The closest you get to that is against the Minnesota Vikings in London. A little bit of a fluke there, in my opinion, because it's not usual circumstances for a game. You can see when he goes away, um, or even at home later in the year, it's a lot of dip and dunk, short throws. Played well against the Dolphins, don't get me wrong. And then also played pretty well against the Baltimore Ravens the first time that they played, as well as last night. But pretty efficient in the way he played last night. Was able to come through with the clutch drive. Really, really a key reason why they won that game. But I'm saying, I think he played better against Baltimore the first time that they played them rather than the second time. You can see the Bills yards per attempt not great. Chargers yards per attempt. Seahawks yards per attempt. And Packers yards per attempt not great. And you can see the amount he got sacked 3 times against the Chargers, 2 times against the Browns, 3 times against the Packers, 0 times against the Browns in that first matchup, and then 3 times against the Seahawks. So, one thing you want to take away is that similar to the Texans, they like to get the ball out quickly. They like screen passes to Kenneth Gainwell, dump offs to Jalen Warren, drag routes to Pat Fryermuth, Calvin Austin, and then they like their occasional deep ball to DK Metcalf. So if you're able to just keep whatever they have in front of you, you're gonna have a recipe for success in this game. It's a lot of dip and dunk, um, similar, not nearly what the Dolphins do with their dip and dunk offense, but similar in terms of we throw a lot of screens, we throw a lot of checkdowns, a lot of that typical Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is very accurate. He can throw the ball down the field if he needs to. But this year, Mike Tomlin's saying, "Hey, we can beat teams with our defense sometimes." And even though they do leak a little bit defensively, we're just going to trust you to methodically move the ball down the field. If we can get a field goal, we're going to take a field goal every time. We're not going to go for it on fourth down all too much. Um, Keep whatever we can get is whatever we can get, and we're going to take that every single time. But they're one of the best teams in terms of yak yardage, which is yards after the catch. So they catch the ball, get and advance the ball a couple yards at a very efficient rate. And I think the Texans are one of the best teams at flying around the field, using their athleticism on defense to really keep um, ball carriers not getting those extra yardage. So I think that really plays into our favor. I think their offensive scheme is perfect for what our defense tries to do with keeping the offense in front of you. I think you put Derek Stingley or Kamari Lassiter on DK Metcalf and Kalen Bullock as kind of a hovering safety to make sure that he can't get down the field, and I think you have your recipe for success right there. Aaron Rodgers, of course, is probably going to have one of those throws where he puts it in the bucket to DK Metcalf. And DK Metcalf coming back in this game probably opens up that Steelers offense just a little bit in terms of game planning, but you know, they really love those dip and dunks, those screens. So you just got to take, or as the Texans, you can't let them get those yak yardage. You just got to flow downhill and let whatever they or let them take whatever they can take and ensure that whatever they're taking doesn't become something bigger than what it is. So, for example, a 2 yard check down needs to stay to a 3 or 4 yard check down rather than a 8 or 10 yard check down. Um, that's just the way I see it. It's basically just a case of, making sure that the Steelers don't find any holes in your defense, which I don't think there are many. You have the best defense in the league. You have one of the best tackling defenses in the league, so do what you need to do to keep them in front of you. Don't make those short gains into medium gains and keep those short gains because it's going to be a lot of those, and the Steelers are not very aggressive. They don't go for it typically too often. They showed some aggression in the Baltimore Ravens game, going for it on fourth and goal prior to halftime instead of just kicking a field goal there. And they were ultimately unsuccessful, so maybe they just resort back to their previous state and don't go for it as often. But um, yeah, I think as the Texans, you just got to make sure you secure your tackles, make sure you fly downhill, make sure you don't make those short gains, medium or long gains, and then basically their only burner is DK Metcalf, so don't let DK Metcalf get behind you. And then I guess other than that, don't let Calvin Austin get behind you, and make sure you have Fryermuth covered around the middle of the field at all times. That's the three main targets that they have on their offense in the pass game, alongside Kenneth Gainwell on those Texas routes and Jalen Warren on the dump offs. But as I just said, those are pretty much dip and dunk plays. So as long as you keep those in front of you and don't let those turn into bigger gains, then you'll have a lot of success in this game. In terms of the offense here, you just got to get the ball out quick to your guys. You can see the games that we lose here are in red. I took away the Denver game just because CJ Stroud was hurt in that one. Played one quarter, played very efficient in that game actually, um, but got the concussion pretty much halfway through the first quarter, or early in the second quarter. Um, but the first 3 games of the year, you can see the pressure rates are over 14% in all of them, and 2 games over 20%, getting sacked 3 times. And that's the stretch of games where he got sacked the most. You can see the last 3 games he doesn't get sacked at all, against the Raiders, against the Chargers, who have a decent defense, and then the Colts, who have a pretty stout defense in there, but he only played 1 quarter, or sorry, 2 quarters in that game, excuse me. Um, and then got subbed off for Davis Mills at halftime. But against the Raiders and against the Chargers, played the whole game, didn't get sacked at all. Arizona only got sacked once. Kansas City, Chris Jones was wreaking havoc on the inside. CJ Stroud was also trying to play a little bit of hero ball, extend plays, make sure that, if it was a completion, those guys had opportunities to get yak yardage and then going down the field. But 2 of his best games this year were against the Titans and the Ravens there in week 4 and 5, and you can see how quick he got the ball out in that 5th week and scored 4 touchdowns and put up 250. So you can see the effect of CJ Stroud getting the ball out quick, especially against Tennessee too. 2 touchdowns, 233 yards, 6 touchdowns, no interceptions when he's getting the ball out that quickly. Other than that, another game he got the ball out quickly was against the Chargers. 244, 2 touchdowns, did have 2 interceptions in that game, but had 2 deep shots there that were pivotal points or pivotal reasons as to why we won that game. Against the Colts, got the ball out relatively quickly. It went for 169 and a touchdown there. Um, and you can see the completion percentage in that Ravens game and Tennessee game when he was getting the ball out quickly, a lot more accurate. Same thing with the Arizona game. Got the ball out relatively quickly. You'd like to see it come out a little quicker than that, but still very accurate when he was throwing that ball. Extended plays a little bit, which is why the time to throw was a little bit higher. Um, yeah, I mean, you just got to get the ball out quickly to your guys. Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel, Christian Kirk, Nico Collins, Dalton Schultz, Cade Stover are all healthy in this game, which is a miracle. You really feel like usually when the Texans are going into the playoffs, their wide receiver core is never healthy, but you have all the guys you need to go make a run. Got all 4 wide receivers, all 5. Xavier Hutchinson in there too. And then you got all your tight ends with Dalton Schultz and Cade Stover. Of course, you'd like Brevin Jordan back, but we've known he's gone for the entire year. Um, but yeah, you got your two tight ends, you got your five wide receivers, you got all your guys there. Woody Marks is healthy. Jawar Jordan should be back this week, as well as Nick Chubb coming back after being rested last week. So there is that. You got an entirely healthy offense, so Nick Caley's going to have whatever he wants to do at his own expense available to him, even if he wants to run with British Brooks, who looked great in that game against Indianapolis. He definitely could. So yeah, get the ball out quick to your guys. Just methodically move the ball down the field. You know that Steelers pass rush is great with T.J. Watt, Alex Highsmith, Cam Hayward. Cam Hayward was wreaking havoc against the Baltimore Ravens, but I do think we have a better interior offensive line than the Ravens do. I think that's one of the Ravens' biggest need headed into the draft. Um, Moving Titus Howard to left guard has proved pivotal for us, and Ed Ingram's been great too. And then you have Ursary coming back from surgery. He played against the Colts a little bit. I think got subbed out pretty early on, as well as Trent Brown coming back from injury. Um, or well, pretty much coming back from being rested. Those guys were just taking weeks off because they knew they could. Um, and then Titus Howard's been playing great ball. Jake Andrews has been playing pretty good ball too, as well as Ingram. So that offensive line has been very solid, playing better as of late compared to earlier on in the year when you saw, uh, 23 sacks in total and 5, 7, 9, 12, 15 of those came in the first 7 weeks. So there is that 3 weeks in a row with no sacks. You'd expect the Steelers to get after CJ Stroud a little bit, but again, the way to counter that is getting the ball out quickly. There's going to be holes in that Steelers defense. Jalen Ramsey loves playing downhill at that safety spot rather than looking who's over the top of him. So there's definitely chances to exploit that in this game, finding those shots downfield. But I think the key mantra for the Texans offense should be getting the ball out quick to your guys, and then ultimately, if you see that offensive line holding up, that's when you start taking your shots a little bit, taking those in-breaking routes over the middle, which I think will be successful in this game. So there is that. And the key to winning is just the defense can win you this game, so you just let them. You see the Chargers game, obviously you get out to a 14-0 lead, but that defense won you that game as he's getting a pick to prohibit the Chargers getting a touchdown. The amount of times you got to Justin Herbert to stop their drives. Over in the Chiefs game, you intercept Patrick Mahomes 3 times. You get 2 4th down stops to give you the ball back in plus territory. We were able to score a touchdown and a field goal off of those. So, key reason why Texans win these games and put up 20 is because their defense are turning the ball over for the Texans to have the opportunity to put up those points. Even then, Texans versus Bills, you sack Josh Allen 9 times, you intercept him twice, one to end the game and ice it. And your defense has just been winning you games throughout this entire year, especially against the opponents that you're pretty equally matched with. Teams that have a lot of talent on their roster. So, this defense can let or win you this game. CJ Stroud, you know that you don't gotta play hero ball. You just gotta, you know, really see this game through. This defense can, in fact, win you this game. They can pretty much win you this game by themselves. I'm sure they'll score a defensive touchdown or something in there, or get interceptions or turnovers or something like that. They can absolutely win you this game. So you just got to go out there and let them do that thing. If you get to 20 points, I think that's your goal. Um, I think you'll win this game pretty handily. And that leads me to my score prediction, where I have the Texans winning 30-10 to move on to the divisional. This may sound crazy, but I think you can see 3 touchdowns, 3 field goals. I think that's pretty routine for the Texans, scoring 2 touchdowns and kick a lot of field goals. I have an extra touchdown in there. I think they'll just get out to a hot start, and then maybe the Steelers start to climb back a little bit, but then you really just put this game to bed with the defense getting a couple turnovers in there and scoring a touchdown, probably on the ground, because your run game has looked better with Woody Marks looking a little bit more healthy in the last 2 weeks. But that's my prediction, 30-10. I think Nico Collins scores a touchdown, and then I think Woody Marks scores a touchdown, as I just said. And then my last one will go to, um, I'll go with Jalen Noel to score a touchdown on either a deep ball or a little bit of a drag route. So exploiting that defense down deep, or just finding what you can and taking what the defense gives you and scoring a touchdown off of that. But yeah, my score prediction is probably a little egregious. Some people might not agree with what I see, but I see this as Texans being able to take care of business and moving on to the divisional. It would be perfect if we get out to a very early lead and are able to rest our guys a little bit, because we are playing on Monday Night Football. So we will have a day less of rest compared to everyone else. So if you're able to get out to a 28-0 lead, and then it's the fourth quarter, and there's no way the Steelers are coming back, then I hope we can give our guys a quarter off. But again, it's a playoff game. I'm not ever going to predict that to happen. I just see the Texans being able to take care of business and really control this result and move on to the divisional, where we take on most likely the Patriots, um, or yeah, the Patriots, the Jaguars, or the the Bills or the Chargers. One of those two, if all wild card teams win. But I mean, we'll see. Definitely intrigued to see how that Charger or not the Chargers Bills Bills Jaguars matchup goes, as well as the Patriots Chargers, to be honest. But we're the last of the bunch. We'll see how we do on Monday Night Football. Our guys get an extra day of rest, so that is a little bit nice. And there'll be more videos out. If you did enjoy this video, please be sure to like, subscribe. Let me know what y'all score predictions are down in the comment section below. If you do agree with me, if you see these keys to win as the same keys that I have, let me know down below. And thank you so much for watching. I hope you do enjoy these videos. This is the first time I've made this kind of video, but I do really like looking at what you can exploit in other teams for the Texans' ultimate success, and that's just how I see it. So yeah, thank y'all again so much for watching. If you did enjoy, please be sure to like, subscribe, and as always, it's Texans Takeover, and I'm out. Peace.